The Korea-Africa Summit has wrapped up with a pledge to broaden joint economic cooperation in expanding trade in various fields, from industrial development to climate change. North Korea continues to erase symbols of inter-Korean cooperation, as it has reportedly started removing parts of the Donghae Line Railroad that connects to Kumgangsan Mountain. In the meantime, South Korea's military will soon resume exercises near the northwestern islands, which have been halted since the 2018 military pact. South Korea's economy expanded 1.3% quarter-on-quarter from January to March, partly backed by robust exports. It's June 5th, 2024. This is Newscenter. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Jung-min. The Korea-Africa Summit wrapped up today with the two sides pledging to strengthen economic ties in a range of areas, from industrial development to climate change, through a joint economic committee. Our correspondent Lee Soo-jin begins our coverage.
South Korea and Africa will establish a joint economic committee to further promote trade between them. The agreement was made in an MOU signed on Wednesday between the Korea International Trade Association and the African Continental Free Trade Area at the 2024 Korea-Africa Business Summit. The event, held in Seoul by South Korea's Trade Ministry, was attended by more than 400 people, including heads of state, business leaders, and economic experts. They discussed key issues such as industrial development, trade expansion, food and mineral security, and climate change. President Yoon Suk-yeol, in his keynote speech, highlighted Africa's vast potential.
2021년 아프리카 대륙 자유무역지대 출범으로 이제 아프리카는 세계 최대 단일 시장으로 발전하고 있습니다. 경제인 여러분께서도 한 아프리카 경제협력위원회를 중심으로 민간 교류를 더욱 활발히 추진해 주시기를 부탁드립니다.
We sat down with the Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area, who's also one of the speakers, and he emphasized the African Union and South Korea's shared trade and investment opportunities, such as in the auto industry.
If you take, for example, the auto sector, the African continent by the year 2035 will require 5 million units of vehicles per year produced in Africa. Today we are at 1.2 million units of vehicles per year produced in Africa. That means that there's an opportunity to invest to manufacture 4 million units of vehicles by the year 2035. It's an opportunity for Hyundai, for Kia, all of the big auto manufacturers of Korea.
The AFCFTA, one of the biggest, asset of that is that it's one of the biggest single markets. What is South Korea's role in this, and why is it so important and beneficial to have a single large market?
What we propose to South Korea is an alternative market, a fast, dynamic, alternative market for export, for investment. Any country, it is in any country's interests to have a diversified export market and to have a diversified investment market. And so that's what we're offering.
He added that through the Joint Economic Committee, South Korea and Africa will identify beneficial projects in a wide range of areas, including minerals, the digital economy, and infrastructure. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
Also taking center stage has been the story of innovative young entrepreneurs from Korea and Africa and their future business prospects. Our An Sung-jin tells us more.
Under the theme of The Future We Make Together, Shared Growth, Sustainability, and Solidarity, the 2024 Korea-Africa Summit held a wide range of events, and the Youth Startup Forum was one of them. Organized by South Korea's Foreign Ministry, SMEs and Startups Ministry, and the Korea-Africa Foundation, it shared success stories of innovative young entrepreneurs from Korea and Africa.
Africa is a young continent with more than 2/3 of the population under the age of 30. It is looking to solve social problems through innovative and creative ideas. Africa is emerging as a startup powerhouse and is a reliable partner for shared growth.
The 2024 Korea-Africa Youth Startup Forum aims to be a platform for stakeholders such as investors and young startups to build network and exchange ideas. Discussions were held on key policies based on current investment trends in Africa and ways to strengthen cooperation between Korean and African startup companies. More than 200 attendees, including high-ranking officials, public officers, and those from the academia, participated. A member from a fintech startup based in Africa shared her perspective on the rising collaboration.
Startups are focusing on energy, and then because of the youthful population, is also a service-oriented organization. So service in terms of food, manufacturing, even I said logistics, so mobility. Those are the areas that we have seen people coming, look at the problem very critically because
governmental organizations are also looking to establish partnerships and strengthen innovation for startups.
We have been working to meet other startup ecosystem development partners to establish linkages that can allow us to connect Korea startups to the Kenyan ecosystem and as well find opportunities for Kenya startups in the Korean market. We believe there are opportunities for funding, for networking, for investments, and as well for scaling up the businesses in both countries.
The forum also shared successful cases of African countries that have benchmarked South Korea's startup ecosystem by fostering a youth training academy program, and it is hoped that the forum will lead to the further development of those ties. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
Ensuring food security remains a critical task for Africa. That being said, our correspondent Woo Soo-young sat down with Africa's representative at the UN Food and Agricultural Organization for some insight on potential related endeavors between Korea and Africa.
Innovation should be the basis of South Korea and Africa's cooperation to achieve access to affordable and nutritious food across the African continent. That's according to Obibi Gabriel, Assistant Director General and Regional Representative for Africa at the Food and Agricultural Organization. Speaking to Arirang News during the first ever Korea-Africa Summit, Gabriel said the two sides' cooperation is all the more urgent as Africa's food security faces multiple shocks, including internal conflicts, droughts and floods, which cause people to become displaced.
There are other factors as well. You know, we just came out of COVID-19 pandemic, as you know. And also global political instabilities and wars have impacts on agri-food systems, such as the war in Ukraine. You know, Africa depends a lot on imported cereals and also for fertilizer, and the global economic downturns also impact agri-food systems. So we are talking about a multitude of factors. Now, the situation wasn't really positive because the figures indicate that hunger has been on the rise. You know, 1 out of 5, about 20% of Africans do not have enough to eat at the moment. And rightly, both man-made and natural shocks have contributed to this.
What would be the best way or the best holistic way to increasing food availability and also affordability across for African households?
Yes, in Africa we focus on a few things. It is about transformation of the agri-food systems along the whole value chain, not just about seeds and fertilizers inputs, but all the way, the value chain development, the post-harvest. But at the center of it is increasing productivity. The level of productivity in Africa is low. It is about 30% of the average for developing countries, which means there is a lot of opportunity to expand productivity. So that is, in FAO, we call it better production, but also better nutrition. About 1 billion people in Africa do not afford healthy diets. It's expensive. So we have to make it affordable for them by producing more by reducing the cost of production. So there are solutions, and in FAO we call them 4 betters. Better production, better nutrition, a better environment, and a better life, leaving no one behind. But we can only achieve this when we have efficient, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable agri-food systems.
He noted that Korea supports rice production, rice value chain development, along with the production of fish and aquaculture, and efforts for greater trade and investment in countries like Cote d'Ivoire, Ethiopia, Tanzania, and Zimbabwe.
So how do you hope to see Korea-Africa cooperation in food security evolve after this summit?
You see, one of the important reasons why we in FAO, and I come from Africa as FAO representative for the Africa region, we look forward to Africa-Korea collaboration, is because Korea has demonstrated how to transform its economy, its production sectors in a very short period of time. And there's a lot of opportunity in Africa to boost agricultural production and value chain development. And the best way to collaborate is to make it long-term commitment, to improve, to build on what exists already in terms of collaboration on research and development and technology and innovation. Already the Republic of Korea has been collaborating with a number of countries in Africa to support technology transfer, knowledge sharing, research and development, value chain development, youth employment in many countries. So the work has already been begun. It is there. It needs to be strengthened a little bit.
I see. Well, thank you so much for your time today, and I hope your trip to Seoul is a successful one.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
North Korea has reportedly started removing parts of the Donghae Line Railroad that connects to Kumgangsan Mountain. In the meantime, South Korea's military will soon resume exercises near the northwestern islands. Our North Korean affairs correspondent Kim Jong-soo has this report.
North Korea is reportedly showing another move to erase the idea of reunification. On Wednesday, South Korea's National Intelligence Service said there are some signs of the removal of the tracks of the Donghae Line Railroad and that they are keeping an eye on the related events. No further details were provided by the intelligence agency. A senior Unification Ministry official told Arirang News that the removal of the tracks had likely been carried out in line with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's direct orders earlier this month. Back in January at the Supreme People's Assembly, the North's leader ordered to disconnect the South and North as part of the regime's efforts to eliminate the idea of reunification. The railroad, according to the ministry official, was connecting Daejin Station on South Korea's east coast to North Korea's Mount Kumgang as a symbol of connecting the two Koreas. Pyongyang has recently been spotted removing streetlights and planting landmines in roads connecting the South and North. Meanwhile, taking the government decision to suspend all clauses of the 2018 Inter-Korean Military Agreement, the South Korean military will soon resume drills in areas near the military demarcation line and the Northwest Islands. According to officials, Marines deployed to the Northwest Islands will resume their K-9 self-propelled artillery drills this month for the first time in nearly 6 years. Army drills within 5 kilometers of the MDL and near the northern limit line would also resume shortly. Seoul's decision to suspend the military agreement came on Tuesday amid North Korea's continued provocations. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
North Korea's nuclear program at present remains as threatening as it did in the past. Now, this is according to U.S. President Joe Biden while speaking to an American news magazine. Lee Shi-hoo has more.
U.S. President Joe Biden, in an interview with Time magazine last week, said that North Korea's nuclear program is equally as threatening as it was before.
When asked whether the situation was getting worse, he added he does not think it's more threatening. The president said that, quote, as long as there are nuclear weapons available, it's always going to be a problem, adding that former U.S. President Donald Trump was wrong in not wanting to work early on 5 years ago. When asked if it's American policy to live with a nuclear or near-nuclear Iran and North Korea, Biden confirmed that it isn't. President Biden further mentioned his visit to South Korea, quote, to reclaim the chips industry, and said the U.S. has secured $865 billion in private sector investments during his presidency. The interview took place at the White House on May 28th, where Biden spoke extensively about his foreign policy agenda. Its full transcript was released on Tuesday. Lee Si-hoo, Arirang News.
Israel's continued strikes on central and southern Gaza have reportedly killed at least 19 people, including 2 policemen who were protecting humanitarian workers in Rafah. Local medics reported at least 17 people died on Tuesday from Israeli attacks on 2 refugee camps, Al-Buri and Al-Maghazi, in a city in central Gaza. Local residents say tanks were attacking an area near the Al-Nusayrat camp that night. Earlier in the day, the Israeli military said that airstrikes were targeting Hamas militant sites in central Gaza, and ground force operations were being conducted in the area of Al-Buri. Over in the U.S., Congressman Andy Kim has won the Democratic Senate primary in New Jersey. Analysts say that he has a strong chance of becoming the first Korean-American senator. Cha Yun-kyung has more.
U.S. House Representative from New Jersey's 3rd Congressional District, Andy Kim, defeated 2 other candidates, former labor leader Patricia Campos Medina and social justice activist Lawrence Ham, in Tuesday's primary and became the Democrats' pick for New Jersey senator for the November 5th election. If Kim wins in November's election, he would become the first Korean American to be elected to the U.S. Senate. The state of New Jersey has voted for a Democratic Senate candidate since 1972, so pundits are giving Kim a strong chance of winning the seat. Representative Kim said on social media after his primary win that he's very thankful for the incredible win and what he achieved over the last 8 months was remarkable. Kim will be facing Republican nominee Curtis Boshaw and the incumbent Democrat Senator Robert Menendez, who facing federal corruption charges, filed to run as an independent on Monday. Cha Yun-kyung, Arirang News.
Korea's gross domestic product rose 1.3% on quarter during the first 3 months of this year, partly backed by robust exports. Our correspondent Moon Hye-ryun has the latest.
South Korea's economy expanded in the first quarter to show promising growth on the back of booming exports. According to data released by the Bank of Korea on Friday, the country's gross domestic product grew 1.3% on quarter between January and March, the same as the advanced estimate given at the end of April. This is the largest on-quarter hike recorded in over 2 years, breaking a sluggish growth trend of below 1%. A downturn in exports led to a contraction of 0.5% in the fourth quarter of 2022, but immediately bounced back up to record 5 straight quarters of growth. Construction investment saw a large rise due to recovery in civil and building construction, jumping by 3.3%. A turnaround in semiconductor exports was also reflected in the latest data, with the IT sector and petroleum goods contributing to the overall rise of 1.8% for exports. Government consumption also expanded by 0.8% on the back of increased expenditure on goods. However, facility investment fell by 2%, while imports also dropped by 0.4% on the back of lower natural gas prices. Meanwhile, the country's gross national income, the total earned by people and businesses, was up 2.4% from the fourth quarter of last year. Net foreign income, calculated by subtracting the income earned by foreigners in the country from the total income earned by Koreans from foreign sources, tallied up to the same as the previous quarter. The agency explained that the GNI overall saw a rise due to improving trade conditions, which reduced trade losses for the country. The topic of when and how the country's GNI per capita will surpass $40,000 has been raised for some time now, after $36,194 was recorded in 2023. A spokesperson from the agency said this.
It's difficult to say exactly when we'll reach that goal because GNI per capita is dependent on so many factors such as real income, GDP deflator, inward and outward remittances, and the foreign exchange market. But should the country's currency stabilize, we predict that it should be possible within a few years.
As of 2023, the country ranked 6th in the world in terms of GNI per capita, between Italy and Taiwan. 문혜련, Arirang News.
The head of U.S.-based firm Act-Geo, which is in charge of analyzing potential offshore oil and gas reserves in the East Sea, arrived in South Korea today for talks on the exploration project. Victor Arirang, owner of the Texas-based research firm, will meet with the Korean National Oil Corporation and government officials. He expressed confidence in the economic value of the potential discovery amid controversies concerning reliability, and mentioned that there were new data to analyze with plans to address future questions at a press conference on Friday. Last year, the government commissioned Act-Geo to study potential deposits off Pohang's coast, and it reported findings of up to 14 billion barrels of oil and gas, leading President Yoon to approve exploratory drilling in the area. In the first plenary session of the 22nd National Assembly on Wednesday, lawmakers elected 5-term legislator Woo Won-shik as the new speaker, who will serve a 2-year term. Alongside Woo, the main opposition Democratic Party's Lee Ha-kyung took one of the 2 deputy speaker posts, while the other, set aside for the ruling party, remains vacant. This is due to the ruling People Power Party boycotting the vote, claiming the session was opened without a bipartisan agreement on its agenda. The vote and boycott occurred amid an ongoing dispute between the rival parties over the formation of committees. Ahead of the session, the 2 failed to reach a consensus on the allocation of chairpersons of standing committees. Turning to sports, South Korean football player Son Heung-min has been named the 10th best forward in men's football in the ESPN 2024 FC 100 list. The well-known American sports broadcast channel said the captain of Tottenham Hotspur was among the best finishers and the most steadily successful players. The 31-year-old player is one of 5 Premier League players who finished the 2023 to 2024 season with 10+ goals and 10+ assists. Son has averaged 15.6 goals and 8.4 assists in Premier League play over the past 5 seasons. Kylian Mbappe and Harry Kane were on the list as numbers 1 and 2 respectively.
The hottest day of the year is continuing in Seoul today, which is Mangjong. Even a little movement outside in the sun makes us sweaty. Memorial Day tomorrow is expected to be just as hot as today. The daytime temperature in Seoul will rise to 31 degrees Celsius. This is as hot as midsummer weather in early August. Along with a summer heat tomorrow, there will be showers in Gangwon-do and Jeollanam-do provinces and Jeju Island. The amount of rain may not be large, but it may be accompanied by thunderstorms and gusts of wind. Please be careful of heavy rain that could be concentrated in mountainous areas for a short time. Tomorrow, Chuncheon, Gwangju, and Busan will start off at 17 degrees. It will move up to 30 degrees in Chuncheon, Daejeon, Daegu, and Gyeongju, 28 degrees. The daily temperature difference is still huge with a difference of more than 10 degrees. Please take care of yourself. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is Newscenter for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session coming up.